Poland's Prime Minister Morawiecki made his first official visit to Canada on Friday, where he met with Prime Minister Trudeau in Toronto.
Proud and happy that Canada and Poland are doing everything possible to strengthen those transatlantic ties.
Both leaders discussed what that might mean when it comes to enhanced defense and security, economic trade, and support for Ukraine. Trudeau also raised concerns about democratic backsliding and LGBTQ rights in Poland, saying that he had a frank conversation with the Prime Minister. I had a chance to have my own conversation with Poland's Prime Minister on the grounds of the Polish Consulate General in Toronto, right there by Lake Ontario. I asked him about the need for Canadian soldiers in Poland, his message on defense spending, and Ukraine's path to NATO. Here is our exclusive with Prime Minister Morawiecki. Prime Minister, nice of you to make the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I want to start, I think, with what you and our Prime Minister were discussing today. More Canadian armed forces arrived in Poland just last week, were deployed there. And you were both talking a lot about this enhanced defense cooperation. What does that look like? How do Poland and Canada work together, and what would be your hope for that?
Well, now the security of eastern flank of NATO is the most vulnerable point and the most important aspect of the security of the entire region.
Right.
And Poland and Canada, we are present in some other countries of eastern flank of NATO, like Latvia.
Yes.
But it is the enhanced forward presence of NATO, which is the most important element of the security in our country. More than 10,000 troops from the US, but also a growing presence of Canada also in Europe. And this is very important because there is no peace and stability without NATO these days, as we all know.
And what would be your vision going forward for a presence in the eastern flank? Would you want that to be something that is more permanent, or is it really just when the conflict is happening?
Well, we talked to I talked to President Biden and to Prime Minister Trudeau and our other allies to be in Poland on a permanent basis, like in South Korea, for instance. By the way, we can pay for this base, permanent base, so no problem from financial point of view. But it is important for the stability of the entire region, the European Union, actually, which is major trading partner and security partner for the US and for Canada.
And did you get a commitment from Canada's Prime Minister on a permanent?
Well, all I can tell is that there is growing presence, more and more military support, more and more weapon delivery to Poland from the US in particular. We are very actively buying some stuff from the US, from Canada as well. And we also spend lots of time talking about SMRs, nuclear energy, renewable energy, and how Polish-Canadian cooperation can be a win-win type of solution.
We are heading into, obviously, the big summit for NATO, and I have a few questions about NATO for you. Yes. Canada is still spending under 2% of its GDP. It has not yet met that NATO target. Poland, I think, is at 4% now.
This year we're going to spend 4% buying military equipment, but also increasing number of our troops.
So how important do you think it is for allies to meet that 2% target?
It is important, but as far as I know, most, if not all, of our allies have prepared some path how to get to 2 percentage points. But given the growing uncertainty around us and Russian aggression on Ukraine, I'd advise everyone to spend even more, because security, stability is the backbone and foundation of any prosperity and any long-term developments.
Canada is not on track to meet that 2%.
Is it not?
No, and some Pentagon papers that were released suggested that the Prime Minister has told allies it is not possible for this country to get there.
Why?
That would be a good question for him. Did you discuss that with him, and why? And do you think it's important that Canada, even though we are that far away, get to that target?
Well, I had an impression that Prime Minister Trudeau is very much focused on security, and I don't know the details of this path and when will Canada reach these 2 percentage points. But we are very serious about this in Europe, in Poland, in eastern flank of the European Union in particular. And I think that even if the war is so far out from Canada, the growing tensions and the position of China, not only Russia, and war atrocities in Ukraine, these are clear indications of changing environment, and the increased expenditures on military should be done by every government.
You met with President Zelensky just yesterday on
in Chisinau in Moldova.
Yes, and he obviously is pushing for Ukraine to become part of NATO.
Yes.
Not everyone in NATO believes that should be happening at the same time as the war. I think you have a different view.
Well,
what do you think?
have a different view, Rosemary, because even if Ukraine is not part of NATO today, they fight on behalf of NATO. They fight in the interest of NATO. They fight for NATO in a sense that they are defending this brutal Russian force against this brutal Russian force, which would then jeopardize many other NATO countries. And I think that they do deserve being presented a very quick path to NATO.
Some of the concerns that existed before were concerns around democracy, corruption, those kinds of things inside Ukraine. Does that still have to be part of the path to joining NATO? Or do you think that now, because of the situation we're in, it just has to happen?
I think it just has to happen. I think that all the other things have to be worked out and have to be dealt with once the peace is restored, stability is back, and the state can normally operate. All what the Ukrainians presented through their fighting spirit and their stamina which they have is so important. It's much more important than some aspects of their democracy. They are a democratic country in a war, and they deserve to be supported.
Let me ask you about the fighter jets, because you were the first NATO country to pledge fighter jets, and I think that really opened the door to a bigger conversation to convince the United States.
So was the case with the tanks, with Leopard tanks.
Yes, exactly. Why was it so important for you to pledge those quickly? And do you think that it does convince NATO allies when they see Poland doing that to
we've done this with our fighter jets, and I do believe that this will be a good example for the others. Some countries of Western Europe have really many fighter jets, and they are so far from Russia, they do not have to fear any immediate threat, and they should be more sympathetic towards Ukraine and giving more. Having said that, things which were beyond our imagination 1 year ago, half a year ago, now happen. So I'm not criticizing anyone. I know that this needs time, and I'm very happy. I'm very pleased that my Western European Prime Minister colleagues, presidents, and so on, they changed their attitudes towards quicker and bigger support for Ukraine.
Poland has taken in a lot of Ukrainian refugees. 2 million, is that?
2.5, 3 million now. 2.5 million are still in Poland.
What is the expectation for those people to eventually go back to Ukraine, and how long can Poland support them? Because financially that is a lot for your country to do.
Yes, but we give them immediate access to our healthcare system on the same footing as Polish citizens, access to our education system, social security system, job permission. So they are very good citizens in our country. They work hard. They want to go back. These are predominantly women with children. Children go to school. They would like to go back to their husbands, but the situation on the front line is not yet so easy, so calm. Not at all, actually. So we feel that that's our responsibility to support them.
So let me end on this then. How do you think this ends? No one expected it to last this long. As you said, the counteroffensive is beginning. How much longer can this go on?
I think it may last for much longer. The reason why I think so is that I know that Russia is a vast country they have strategic depth, they have huge natural resources, they have human resources. They can mobilize hundreds of thousands of new troops, replacing those who are, eliminated from the battlefield. So unless some deeper changes happen in the Kremlin with Putin and his oligarchs around him, we need to count with longer-term battle, longer-term war, and we have to prepare our public opinion for this, because Putin's public opinion is patient, and by the way, it's behind him, like the German public opinion was behind Hitler in the 30s, which means that the war can last much longer, and we have to prepare for longer-term support needed for Ukraine, because Ukraine is doing enormous endeavors to defend their own sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also they fight for our stability and peace in Europe.
Prime Minister, thank you. Nice of you to
Thank
make
you
the
so
time.
much. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it very
Thanks
much.
for having
Sir.
me.
Thank you.